Hey there, South Plains. Amanda McAfee with Lubbock Area United Way. Today I am joined by Deborah Finlayson. She is the Executive Director for Red Cross serving the South Plains, so their local chapter here in Lubbock and serving the surrounding counties and surrounding areas. Red Cross is somebody we typically think of in disaster and typically think of responding to crisis and stuff. So we wanted to talk to Deborah and talk about how they have been responding to the crisis and how they've been shifting their services some over the last couple of months. So, hey, Deborah, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just managing through kind of the thing people keep calling the new reality.
The new reality, indeed. Absolutely. And I think actually, that's kind of a perfect segue for you guys because that's what Red Cross does. They come in and they manage new realities. And typically when we think about it, we think of maybe it's a hurricane or a tornado or something big, natural disaster. And this is a very different kind of disaster that we've been dealing with. So tell us a little bit about how Red Cross is responding and what you guys are doing here locally.
Let me start by telling you what our mission is. And the American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and generosity of donors. That's our mission. That's what we strive to do. And so every day, every 7 minutes, there's actually a disaster. You don't probably see it on television or on the news, but what we know is that there's a home fire every 7 minutes in our nation. And the Red Cross does respond to that. And so what we've had to do, especially in time of COVID, is we've had to shift how we respond to all of our disasters in a way that we can make sure that the people that we're responding to and the people that are doing the responding are safe in that environment. So while we're living in this unprecedented time, we're all having to make adjustments to keep each other safe. The Red Cross, for the Red Cross, that means we've adjusted the ways in which we respond to disasters. So how can I boil that down for you? So first of all, the Red Cross continues to adapt our humanitarian services to care for communities across North Texas and, of course, the Lubbock area, while complying with all state, county, and city ordinances in close coordination with public health officials. So it's kind of hard to go to a home where the home is completely destroyed by fire. And what I mostly want to do is hug that homeowner and tell them it's going to be okay. And we can't do that anymore right now, but we can still help that homeowner. So, one of the things that the Red Cross has actually put a lot of resources into is retraining our volunteer team and our staff team on how to provide that type of support. So one of the things is, of course, we've worked with the public health officials to make sure how do we make this work. So during the coronavirus, when the nation is practicing social distancing, we're still providing relief services virtually, and that includes our mental health support and financial assistance. That includes mental health support and financial assistance, thanks to investments in items like laptops, wireless hotspots, and mobile devices. See, some of our volunteers don't even have some of these things, so it's hard for them to actually provide these virtual services without these things in their household. So we do have mental health, certified mental health providers that will contact somebody who's been in a disaster and visit with them and talk to them and help them through some of the mental anguish that they are dealing with. One of the things that actually is also provided by the Red Cross is a mental care hotline for people that have lost a loved one to coronavirus, where you can talk to somebody about your fears and your frustrations and your concerns. And Amanda, I will provide you a link to that you can share with people, where they can just click on that link and find out more information about that care hotline that the Red Cross does provide for people that have lost loved ones to coronavirus. Now, in the case of a big disaster like a tornado or like a hurricane, typically what we do is we set up a shelter where people can go and get out of the weather and have a place to stay until they're given the all clear to go back to their home, or maybe there's not a home to go back to and they have to figure out what to do next. Well, we can't set up a shelter like we have in the past. So now what we've done is we've worked with hotels and areas that might provide dormitories, like for instance, like a university that is currently shut down, we might, if there had been a big disaster, we might work with them, or we've actually already got agreements here in Lubbock with about 7 hotels that will allow us, and of course we still have to pay them, but will allow us to house these people that have been displaced from their homes, so that they have a safe place to be for at least 48 hours until they can kind of get their hands around all the stuff that's happened to them. We also provide, we also still provide like someone who's been in a home fire. We do still provide financial assistance to them. We call that home fire financial assistance, and they're able to use those resources to actually get a hotel, go buy clothes, whatever it is they need for the next 48 hours until their insurance kicks in. Some, very few have insurance, but some do. And also just to get them through the next 48 hours with shelter, clothing, and food until they can start getting some other support services that are provided to them. I think that was a really long answer to that question, but I think the main thing to tell you here is that the Red Cross is here to provide support in time of disaster. And regardless of the corona or anything else, we're still going to provide that support.
Oh, that was a really great answer to that question, because that's one of the things that I think think about, and other people have talked about, is while this is happening, the normal everyday things of life are happening. The normal things that go wrong in life, like a home fire, those things are still happening. And how do we respond to those in an appropriate way? And how do we care for the people that go through that disaster? I mean, we're sitting here in the middle of spring and tornado season. I mean, I think we all saw, recently we've had a lot of storms. We had tornadoes down in Post area very recently. And and thinking about, should something happen, here we are marking the 50th anniversary of the Lubbock tornado. And what if something like that happened to one of our South Plains communities in the middle of all of this? And it's good to know that you guys as the Red Cross are there, and you all are thinking through what should, if something like that does happen, if we do here in the middle of tornado season, or as we're headed into hurricane season, if something like that happens, what would taking care of people also in the middle of coronavirus look like? So it's great that you guys are thinking through that. Deborah, I know you guys have also, at the same time, part of what you guys do is help prepare people knowing what to do, especially like your kids programs, and knowing what to do should they have a home fire, should they have something that a disaster happen in their life. And you guys have taken some of that virtually and done some stuff online training. So talk a little bit about that and what you guys have been doing.
I tell you what, when all of this happened, and all of our volunteers, the Red Cross runs 90% of all of our workload is done by volunteers. And when all of this happened and our volunteer team was basically told to stand down, we can't let you go out and do stuff anymore, we quickly reversed that and gave everybody a challenge of what can we do virtually. And the ideas were just exploding everywhere, lots of really great ideas. Everybody got tons of training on the Red Cross website. Pretty much, when we go out and set up a shelter, we don't just send somebody, hey, go serve 500 people food. There's a certain amount of training that the volunteers have to go through, and it's all provided for free. But there's 5 levels of, 5 different little training sessions that they have to go through before we can let a volunteer serve food. There's health, there's health reasons and all of that sort of stuff. We can't just let somebody serve food. And so many of our volunteers have gotten caught up on a lot of that training and have helped get them to another level of volunteer service, which is really exciting. And then, in the virtual mode, so many of them came up with so many great ideas. And 2 of those were, of course, one is, we go into schools for our 3rd to 5th graders, and we do a pillowcase training. We call it pillowcase mainly because back during Hurricane Harvey, Red Cross volunteers noticed that families had put things into a pillowcase to carry with them when they had to leave their residence, when they had to evacuate. And that launched a program called the Pillowcase Project. And so what we do is we go into the schools and we teach these 3rd to 5th graders how to be prepared for a disaster, whether it's a flood, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a house fire. You know, we typically kind of geographically focus on what's more prominent in the area. So here in Lubbock, we talk mostly about house fires and about tornadoes, but we do touch on flooding. You know, you never can tell when that might happen. And so, but you know, down in Houston, they probably focus on flooding more than they do tornadoes. So in that case, but we teach them how to be prepared. We teach them to find two ways to get out of their home. We teach them, you know, where to meet, you know, especially in terms of a home fire, we tell them how to have a place outside the home where all the family meets and to make sure everybody's on the same page about that. We teach them how to, you know, especially in fire, how to get low, how to stay under the, you know, under the smoke. So all of that preparedness is part. And another really key part of that training is teaching them how to remain calm and how to think it through. So we have some breathing exercises that we teach them in that process as well, because you know as well as I do, when things are crazy, you get up, you get nervous and scared and you can't think and all of that. I even, you know, I'm that way even when they start talking severe weather. So I have to, you know, I have to calm myself down and think, okay, I work for the Red Cross now, I need to be calm. And, so we were unable to do that in person. And so we took it virtually. And, you know, there were two schools here in Lubbock that were providing, I guess, daytime school / care for children of our first responders and our healthcare workers. And so I think one of those was Stewart and one of them was Miller. And so we actually had somebody take the pillowcases to those schools, and we dropped them off and left them for the people at the school to distribute. And then we set up a virtual training for our pillowcase project. We had two presenters and, or actually three presenters, two volunteers and one of our board members actually participated in that and had a really nice time with it. And we got some really good feedback from the children that were part of that as well. They didn't just sit there. They were able to do some interactive discussion about what to do and how to do it. So that was very successful. As a matter of fact, it was pilot. Lubbock piloted it. Nobody had done it before. And from that, they actually launched, and to be honest with you, we have goals. We want to do so many pillowcase presentations to so many children, because that education is so important to the survival of these children in these home fires. And so we have a goal, and because of Corona, we're behind on reaching our goal, but now we've expanded it larger. And we did a test run the other night with volunteers, children, to get online. And we were unable to distribute pillowcases because they're all over the state of Texas, but we did it regionally here, just a regionally wide. If you have a volunteer, you know, if you've got children or grandchildren, they want to learn about this, get on, you know, this is when it is. And that turned out to be very successful. So it's worked really well, and we hope to do more. So my point here is, if whoever's hearing this right now, and you know where here locally we can find a group of 3rd to 5th graders that we can schedule a time to do a virtual pillowcase presentation, we would love to do that. We're currently working with the YWCA to find a time to do a virtual pillowcase presentation, and would be happy to do it with anybody else as well. So we're excited about that. So that's, you know, in our preparedness area. And then, you know, of course, we're unable to do installation of smoke alarms right now. We're not, you know, we don't feel like it's safe for people to be going into other people's homes. We don't feel like it's safe for the homeowners. We don't feel like it's safe for the volunteers. However, we had our very first virtual smoke alarm installation event the other night. It was a Facebook Live event, and I will send that link to you also, that you're welcome to share with anybody. We recorded it, similar to like what we're doing here, and it basically it was very engaging. It had an interview. What was really mindful is that they had a house fire simulation that we got from a fire department in Australia, if you want to think globally. And basically it had cameras in like 6 rooms, and it showed where the fire started, and within 2 minutes, all 6 rooms had smoke in them. 2 minutes. And one of the things that they talked about in the video is with the materials, and I'm sure many people have heard this, with the materials they're using now to make home furniture and draperies and all, it's not it's a different kind of material, and it burns faster and it catches fire faster. So we really need people to understand the importance of learning and mapping out a way out of your home in case of a home fire, because it's not something you're going to think about when you start smelling smoke. You just need to get out of the house and have a place outside where you meet. So this virtual smoke alarm event was very engaging. We told people how to install their smoke alarms. We told people how to test them, how to change a battery. We're unable to provide the smoke alarms at this time, but at least it gives people an entryway into how to make it all work. Our own Brad Larson was part of that. He's one of our volunteers, and he got to talk about a little bit about some of his experience with the Red Cross. So that was fun to see him on there. And then, again, we had a volunteer from Wichita Falls talking. So it is a little bit localized as well, but I think it'll be shown in a lot of places. And it went really well and was very informative. So we're trying to take some of that messaging virtually as much as possible. And I feel like it's about 90% as effective as actually face-to-face presentations can be.
That's so great, Deborah. You're talking, and every time you talk about this, and I hear you, talk about smoke alarms and training and getting kids prepared. I remember being, probably third grade, and I have vivid memories. I can't tell you it was the Red Cross, but I remember folks coming in and doing a training on what to do if you have a home fire. And I went home that night. I told my parents, we're going to the store. We're going to go buy smoke alarms. We're going to go install them. We're going to do, I created, drew out the whole little plan to get it out, because kids really pay attention to this and can really be big influences for their parents. Whereas I think as parents, we get distracted and we think about so many other things, and the house burning down is one of the last things that we think of, but kids can really focus in and can really lead parents in this. So it's so great that you guys have been doing that and setting up a model for the American Red Cross to really be able to train this and get training out more in a broader way than maybe we ever would have thought about doing if we hadn't suddenly had to sit down and do things virtually. So good on you guys for being creative and innovative and getting things out. So you mentioned smoke alarms, that you guys aren't able to go and do home installs right now. And we've talked about home fires, and that's one of the biggest needs that we have in our area on a regular basis for you guys. So, but I know you guys don't y'all aren't sitting there listening to the wire waiting to hear if there's a home fire. You guys actually have to be called out. You have to be called out to go to a home fire. So if somebody experiences that themselves, or they know somebody who just had a home fire, what do they need to do? How do they need to get a hold of you guys?
If you're a victim of a home fire or any sort of disaster, I want to point out, I know there's been a lot of really crazy hailstorms these last couple of weeks. And if you have suffered from hailstorms and your home is basically unlivable, maybe all the windows got knocked out, or there's literally a hole in your roof. I actually saw something like that on Facebook, so I know it can happen. They had a very large piece of hail up in Wichita Falls, and the disaster program manager actually lives down the street from that person. So I know it's actually true. I don't think it was as big as it looked on television, but or on Facebook, but it definitely came through that individual's roof, and that is not fun. And so, but if you've suffered some major damage from storm or from fire, I even responded to a call one night where somebody accidentally drove into an individual's home and rendered it unlivable, and they called us and we were able to respond. The Red Cross is the only organization that can give instant financial support to somebody that's been in a disaster, like a home fire, or somebody drove into your home, or a massive hailstorm. We're the only organization that does that. But you're right. We can't just be watching the news and say, hey, I think there was a big hailstorm over in such and such city. We should go check it out and see if anybody needs our help. They really have to call the Red Cross. There's a couple of numbers that they can call, but they have to call and actually register that there's been some damage. Now, it doesn't have to be the homeowner. It can be a friend. It can be a neighbor. It can be that we get a lot of calls from the fire department the person will say, could you call the Red Cross for us? We get lots of dispatches that come to us from the fire department. But we have to be called. It's a federal kind of thing. We have to be called. The case has to be registered, and then we can follow up with people and instantly, help them out. I've actually been to calls where the fire department was still there, putting out the blaze, and then one night it was pouring rain, and we went out to the call, and the family was just sitting out in the front yard in the pouring rain because they couldn't go inside. And it was such a bittersweet situation. They were just so kind to me. They've just lost their whole house. They were so kind to me, trying to make sure I wasn't getting wet in the rain while I'm trying to help them. It was just such a neat experience, but we were able to help them. But they had, they have to call us. Somebody has to call the Red Cross and say, hey, there was a fire, there was this damage, and we will respond to it. We'll evaluate the situation and provide support anywhere that we can.
Fantastic. So we will put that number, and when we post this, we'll put that number in the post section on that, so that everybody has access to that, and link to y'all's website as well. Because I think that's, again, there's a lot of misconceptions I think that are out there with the Red Cross, that it's only a hurricane or it's only a tornado or some sort of big something. But I mean, I just learned something new. I didn't know I could call you if my house has hail damage. So that's great to know. So the Red Cross is there. They're ready to respond. They're ready to help. And again, able to help a family immediately, and get them someplace safe, get shelter over their heads until they can figure out and pull things together and get things straightened out.
Last year when the tornadoes hit Dallas, one of the things that, again, it seems really small, but in a big scale, you don't realize, I've never had my house in a tornado, but we provide people buckets of cleaning material, rags and cleaning material, because yours is gone, or it's messed up, or where is it in the pile, and so we provide people even things like that in a situation where they need to go back in and maybe do some cleaning. I see that more often in flooding than in tornadoes, but we did do that in tornadoes. And and when in doubt, feel free to call us, because if we can't help you, we've got lists of resources where we can try to guide people. I will say we have had a few calls from people needing help with rent. Because of COVID-19 and unemployment, we're unable to help people in that situation, unfortunately. But I know the Salvation Army is helping. I know other organizations that are helping. So we're very quick to provide some other resources that people can call to try to get help. So we're willing to help get people connected with people that can help them if we're unable to help.
Deborah, thank you so much. Thanks to your huge team of volunteers and all you guys are doing on a regular basis. I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, Deborah. All right, South Plains, we will be back again soon with another one of our community partners talking about what they've been doing in the midst of the pandemic. And we appreciate you and all that you are doing to support our community. So thanks so much and have a great day.